guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tsunami Healing. I am so super psyched because right now we are live right here in North Hollywood in the studio of the living dead drummer himself. We might get a little bit of bleed over, but hey, that's exciting. That's why we're live. I got the teller of tales here with me, the voice of Midsummer Scream.
Everybody likes to bleed.
Mr. Kevin Horton, ladies and gentlemen, the teller of tales. And ladies and gentlemen, the man that I'm bringing to you today, he's in several different bands. He was at the Ghost Train event this year playing with the Rhythm Coffin, and he is a regular with the Rhythm Coffin and a fan of a lot of cool, fun things. And he's here to talk to you today about all those experiences, playing drums, getting into music, being in the haunt and horror industry. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, Mr. Nick Mason. Nick, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Welcome, Nick.
No, thank you guys for having me. This is really cool. This is actually my first podcast. Over the years I've done radio interviews and stuff like that, but I've never done an actual podcast before, so I was really super psyched when you hit me up and was like, hey, let's do this. Absolutely, let's do it. This is awesome.
I love it. And folks, we were supposed to be in the Cauldron. That didn't work out in Buena Park, where I bought you, Mr. Rick West himself. But there could be something for that in the future. But we're right here live in his studio. Like, we're surrounded by drums and music and all kinds of fun, cool, exciting things. So let's just dive right in. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up, and how you got into music.
Cool. And thank you guys for coming up and meeting me at my studio too. Absolutely. I appreciate that. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. So it's the western New York, western part of the state, very close to Canada, in between the Great Lakes and stuff like that. I grew up in kind of a musical family, so being a musician and being a drummer almost wasn't a choice. Everybody in my family was drummers, all of them. My mom plays.
Your mom drums?
My mom's a drummer.
Oh, nice.
Her brother, my uncle, is a drummer. Their father, my grandfather, was a drummer, and then dozens of cousins are all drummers too. So. And if they weren't a drummer, they married a drummer kind of thing. And that's the thing. On my mom's side of the family, it was all drummers. No one played anything else. Wow. So my uncle, who's a drummer, his youngest son also plays. My mom and uncle's sister, my aunt, her youngest son plays. I had a cousin in Florida, a cousin in Texas, a cousin in Vegas. All of them are drummers. Mm-hmm. So when I was 2 years old, my uncle got me, for Christmas, he got me a snare drum. And it wasn't like a toy one. I had a toy one with Animal from the Muppets on it prior to that when I was a little kid.
Animal. I mean, wonderful character.
Well, who doesn't? I got him hanging up right behind you, actually, on the wall.
Right on.
My favorite scene was always Buddy Greco, with Animal doing like a back and forth drum war. It's probably
the Buddy Rich one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Buddy Greco. What era am I in?
I like the Dave Grohl.
What kind of bus
the
did I take?
The Dave Grohl one is cool too.
Yeah.
What kind of bus did I come on today?
The animal one.
The animal bus.
Well.
Yeah. So I had a toy animal drum when I was a kid. There's a picture floating around the internet with it. Me sitting under a Christmas tree, but I was like an infant, So no, my uncle when I was 2, he got me a real snare drum, a real actual one, not a toy. And it was kind of like, here's your career, kid, go.
Right. No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So I grew up always having a drum in the house, and I didn't really know how to play. I used to bang on it. My uncle was, in the early 80s, he was in a band, and, everyone in the family had a copy of, their demo tape kind of thing, and I would play it in a little tape recorder and bang on my drum to my uncle's music, and hit the plaster wall with a drumstick because I didn't have cymbals, and I just wanted to know whatever that one sound was that was high pitched. It was a cymbal, and I didn't know, so I would just bang on my wall. And then eventually, when I got a little older, I decided, maybe I actually want to learn how to play.
Right.
So when I was 10, when I was 9, I decided I wanted to just learn how to play an instrument. My dad's a musician also. My dad's a guitar player, and he has a guitar repair business, and that's what he does for a living, is he does guitar repair. So I grew up in a guitar shop, hanging out in his guitar shop, watching him build guitars and stuff like that. And then on my mom's side of the family was all the drummers. So when I was like 9, I was like, I actually want to learn how to play something.
Mhm.
So I rebelled against the family and I chose saxophone.
I was gonna ask you, like, if
Yeah.
somebody in your family didn't play something, did they like get shunned out of the family? Like,
Well, I think if you weren't gonna play the drums, you get shunned out. Of the
okay,
family.
okay. So it just had to be
Right, it had to be.
You had a whole lineage of drummers.
Right, exactly. We got to keep the train moving.
Mhm.
You know, Like I said, even if you weren't a drummer, like you married. When I had a cousin, when she got married, like she married a drummer.
Mhm.
So,
So
but
you got into saxophone.
oh yeah. So that was my rebellious 9-year-old phase. Was like, I'm gonna play saxophone because it's all rock music all the time in this house, and I'm gonna do something different. And I learned it. I took lessons. I played at school, and I wasn't bad. But when you're 9 years old, a saxophone weighs more than you do.
Right.
And I used to walk to school and it just got annoying carrying this giant heavy case with me to school every day. So the following year, I basically gave in and said, fine, I'll be a drummer, because then all I had to do was throw a pair of sticks in my backpack to go to school and not a huge saxophone case.
Right.
So I switched to drums out of what I thought would be convenience. Little did I know that I would have to then eventually carry hundreds and hundreds of pounds of equipment with me everywhere I went. And it's like, man, this seems so different when I was 10, you know?
Should have stuck with the
You
saxophone.
Yeah.
show up to the gig with your saxophone.
It
now
would
you
have
gotta
been-
get all the other stuff in.
It would have been so much easier just to show up with a saxophone to a gig. Instead, I got to have, a truck full of road cases everywhere I go. But when you're 10, it was cool. So I switched to drums when I was 10 and never really looked back after that.
Nice. Awesome,
So-
man. So, wow. You're in so many different bands, man. Let's talk about that.
Sure.
How long have you been in the Rhythm Coffin now? And then how did you get into all these other bands? And how do you all play nice with each other? And how do you have time to do all that?
24 usable hours in every day.
Right.
That's what I say. With the Rhythm Coffin specifically, I've been playing with them for about 2 years, just shy of 2 years. I met them actually about 4 years ago. They were looking for a drummer, and I auditioned, and I immediately loved the music and how tongue-in-cheek, silly Halloween it was, and I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
I love them. It's just a fun show.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
just a fun show, and so few bands you can say that about these days, that it's just fun. They're not writing deep lyrics. They're not writing about heartbreak. They're writing about werewolves and zombies.
Right.
And I
Who
just-
doesn't want to do that?
And
how
the zombie Watusi.
yeah. How could you not enjoy that? And so I auditioned for them, and we were coming up on their busy season. Obviously, in October, they are way busier than they are in April.
Mhm.
I mean, granted, they do play out all year round, but October, it's like, oh no, they're going to play 3-4 nights a week. The rest of the year, it might be once or twice a month. And my schedule at the time didn't allow that. I was touring with other groups, and I had already had a bunch of dates confirmed. And I couldn't commit to the schedule they needed me because my schedule was too full. So it kind of ended right there. They wanted me to join the band. I just wasn't available. But we stayed in contact. We stayed friends. I actually got them in to play at Scare LA 3 years ago. I wasn't even in the band. I was just kind of helping with booking entertainment.
Sure.
And called them up, and I was like, I would love for you guys to play. And then, yeah, like I said, just shy of 2 years ago, they hit me up, and they're like, so we found ourselves in need of a drummer again. Do you know of anybody? Could you recommend anybody? They were looking for a recommendation. And I was just like, nope, stop looking. Nope, I'll do it. I'll do it. Stop.
Nice.
Nope, gig's mine. And they were just, they were like, well, we know you're really busy and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I will make it work. I will figure it out. I will make it work. I'm in the band now.
Well, that was an easy choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I got involved with them. And they are the most drama-free, fun band I've ever worked with.
Very nice.
It's a blast. It's just
And
a
they're
good
animal
time.
lovers. I mean,
they have to be if I'm going to be around.
That wasn't a pun. What animal's name was I?
Hey,
well,
it's fine. It can be.
But that's how I got involved with them specifically, anyway.
Yeah, very cool, man. And so, all right, so let me take you back for a second. So you're 10. You gave in. You're playing drums. You're from New York. How old were you when you came over here to the West Coast, and what kind of brought you over here?
I've been here 9 years now. What really brought me over was convincing from other people, and it was just the right career move. So really, there's very, very few places in America or even the world where you can be a full-time musician and not have a regular 9 to 5 to support your hobby. New York, LA, Nashville, that's kind of it for the world. It's kind of it, you know. I mean, there's other creative ways of doing it, and there's other places you can do it. But if you're going for King of the Mountain, those are the places.
Yeah.
And I had been flying out to LA a couple times a year anyway for a job that I had. I had a job in the music industry right out of college. And it's the only actual 9 to 5 job I've ever had where I had like an office and business cards and a name tag on my desk kind of thing.
Sure. It's different, isn't it?
It's way different.
Yeah.
It's way different. And although job security and a 401k and
health insurance,
while that's all really, really great stuff, I just wasn't cut out for 9 to 5. And
probably wasn't fulfilled either, huh?
Well, no, and that was the thing, is working in the music industry, I was constantly talking to people on the phone all day that were doing what I wanted to do.
Right. Yeah.
And I wanted to be the guy on the other end of the phone.
Right.
So, and the bands I was playing in, they were kind of getting frustrated too, because I was playing in 2 or 3 bands at the time, and the only time we could ever actually go on tour is if I had like vacation time saved up. So I'd get like a 2-week vacation, I'd take it during the summer, and I'd have to go and split my time between 3 different bands that all wanted to be at the road at once. And I remember one time I literally like got out of a van onto a plane, out of a plane onto another plane, back into a van, and it took up 14 straight days with 3 different bands, and I was just so beat up and exhausted after it. I was like, my God, I can't do this in 2 weeks. I need 2 months for that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
because you can only do so much. Your body can only take so much.
Right, exactly. And so I made the decision to just wing it, just play full time. I was like,
why not, right?
Yeah.
Just jump in.
It's exactly it. And I was young enough too where I was like, okay, if I fail miserably, I still have the rest of my life in front of me.
Sure.
So I moved to New York City because it was closer than LA. LA is really where I wanted to go. And I had a bunch of friends out here that were all professional musicians. I made a lot of contacts through the job I had. And and some of these guys would call me up and be like, Nick, come to LA. The weather's so beautiful. I'd be under like 3 feet of snow, and they're like, nope, it's 78 degrees today, And I really wanted to come here, but I didn't want to be quite so far away from home. I like the idea of still being able to come home for holidays and see my family and stuff like that. So I moved to New York City, which is 8 hours east. Hated it. Hated every minute of it. I'm not super into city life.
Yeah.
Especially being a drummer. My drums were stacked up in my closet in a little 2-bedroom apartment that cost way more than it should have.
Absolutely.
And
good old New York prices.
Yeah, it's 3 times as expensive as LA. So I'm constantly taking cabs and taking the train everywhere I had to go. Every time I got on the train, I would come back sick. I didn't like having to carry a snare drum and cymbals around with me everywhere I went on trains and in cabs and stuff like that. I was getting hired pretty regularly right from the get-go. Like the minute I got to New York, I had people calling me to hire me. But I also didn't really like the music that was being produced out there. There's some really incredibly fantastic musicians in New York that will never, ever leave New York because they were writing very sophisticated music that wasn't dumb enough
Right.
for
the
a general
public.
audience. Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
Like what you hear on the radio, it's not overly complicated music. It's something with mass appeal for a wide audience because that's what's going to make the most money. And it might not fulfill you artistically, but I didn't care about being artistically fulfilled. As long as I'm behind the drums, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what I'm playing.
Right.
And so it became apparent that, oh my God, I'm never going to make any money playing in New York. It's all going to go to my rent and bills and stuff like that I can barely afford. And I'm never going to make any real money because the people that I'm playing with are never going to make any real money because they're going the artistic route and not the business route. So I said, all right, this was a sidestep. I learned my lesson. I should have just gone to LA because LA is where more mass appeal music is being produced.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to Buffalo for about a year and a half. I took every tour and every gig I could get my hands on, every recording session, every tour in that time. I stashed away every cent of it and then moved out here. And I've been here, like I said, just over 9 years now.
Very cool, man.
And this was the obvious choice to, like, if I want to keep a roof over my head by sitting behind a drum set, I had to come here. So
It sounds like you've been taking, like a lot of us, several leaps of faith.
yeah, I mean, there's no other way you can do it. Like
It's the only way you can do it.
yeah, you can't have a plan B. Like that's I've heard that a couple times, and I've had some people that are much more successful than I that said, just do it. Like if you're gonna do this, just go do this, and there is no plan B. Don't have anything to fall back on because you will eventually fall back on it. And while I did go to college and I did get a degree, when I graduated college, I started a job in a field that had nothing to do with my degree.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
Don't we all do that?
Yeah.
My
One way or
diploma.
another?
Yeah, my diploma sits on a shelf at my mom's house, and it's nice to look at and everything else, and the family can be proud. Look, I was the first one to graduate college in the family, but my degree has nothing to do with playing the drums.
What is your degree?
Graphic design.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I do it occasionally as a hobby for friends here and there. Someone calls up and they're like, hey man, I need a logo for this project I'm doing or this thing I'm starting, or a band's like, hey, can you do us a poster for a show we have coming up? I'll do it if a friend asks. But in terms of like actually making a job out of it, I've so far removed from the game. Like, I hit it at the wrong time. When I started college, we were sitting at drafting tables with rulers and pencils. When I graduated college, we were sitting behind a computer screen for 12 hours a day.
Yep.
And everything we had learned in the previous years was completely obsolete. And technology was moving so fast that by the time I graduated, all the software I had on my computer at home was outdated.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it just moved so quickly in the early 2000s that if I were to actually want to go and pursue graphic arts as a career at this point, I would have to go back to school and get another degree in it, because what they're doing out there today is nothing like what I learned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if Pepsi wants a new logo for their bottle, if they want a label for their bottle, I'm your guy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want some sort of multimedia internet thing, I can't do it. And everybody wants your graphic artist to also be your web designer. When I was in college, those were two completely separate degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're intermingled.
Yeah, they're exactly the same. Every job description once I graduated said, we need someone to do all of our online graphics, our web design, and our actual physical product design. And I was like, I can do one of the three of those things. I can't do all three.
Yeah.
So you can say, I'm one 30-year person.
Right, exactly.
No, that's so crazy, man. I connect with that so much because, it's a small world, man. I was the first one to go to college in my family, too, graduate.
So was I. I went 4 years and I decided to get a master's degree in it.
So you just saw it through and kept going. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I went to school for interior design, and they taught us both methods, like the drafting table plus the technology. But
Yeah.
they were teaching us technology that was ahead. So like we learned Revit, and then I get out and go into the real world. Everybody's like, "Can you show us how to do AutoCAD?" And I was like, "Man, we didn't learn that." Like they're still switching over to like
We
a new
learned
program.
this.
Yeah. And so
Not
I'm
that.
like, yeah. So I definitely can vibe with that, man.
Yeah, when I started
pretty
our
crazy.
design class, like my first year doing it, our design class did it. I think it had one computer in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and then a year later, okay, everybody's got a computer in the room, but you're only using it half the time.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I mean, I learned how to do photography by going into a dark room and developing my own film.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't allowed to use a digital camera, and at the time, it wasn't as good as film.
Right.
Now it's light years ahead of it.
Right.
So I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
right.
I remember, I feel like I'm so ancient that I remember being in a dark room myself when I did photography. You actually had to go in,
Yeah.
do the procedure. And nowadays, that's sort of old news on how to do that.
Now it's a hobby if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's how before it used to be the only way to do it. Now it's a hobby.
Mhm.
I used to do that in college too. It was like it was part of my degree was I had to take photography classes, and I'd go in on a Saturday when no one's there, and I'd bring a little radio with me and play some music and spend the entire day in the darkroom developing photos for whatever school project I had going on at the time. So
Yeah, man, that's so crazy. And then did you go to school out here or back in New York?
I went to school in New York.
New York, okay.
I went to school in New York. Little private college that had a really good art program and stuff like that. And I had some friends that were going there, and I had some relatives that had gone there in the past and everything. And they just had a good art reputation for art and music and stuff like that. I did take all of my electives and minor courses and stuff like that. I did take music classes. But my major was in graphic design.
Gotcha. And did you find that like having that background, does that help you out with the business side of your music, or did it at least give you like an appreciation for more of the details of drumming?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps out. I don't think it translates directly to drumming at all, but it definitely helps out with the business end of things.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
having a degree in graphic design helped me in terms of marketing.
Mhm.
You know, if there was a band I was playing in, I could design a better logo and a better flyer than the guys who were handwriting stuff with a Sharpie and taping it to a light pole.
Right.
And ours would automatically look more professional. And then even branching out and pushing my career in the path of like an independent contractor, musician for hire, it helped me market myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I could, again, come up with artwork and designs and logos and things like that that were a step ahead of anybody who didn't have the same education,
Right.
kind of thing. And
Absolutely.
you know, when it comes to drafting an email that you have to send to a club or a promoter or any kind of business deal or something like that, you know, my education in art allowed me to work, you know, terminology and sentence structure and stuff like that, and be able to come up with really creative ways of getting my foot in the door, whereas other people might not be able to. You know, you go on Craigslist and you see a dozen guys that like, "Hi, my name is Paul. I have been playing for 5 years. I like these bands. I want to play drums in your band." Or you could see something that's like has full-blown graphics on it and is, you know, much more professionally presented. And that's where my education came in handy for me personally anyway.
It helps you to stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have a second project that many of you know about with a band called Blakenstein, and I'm the teller of tales with that band. So it's unusual. It's much like Rhythm Coffin.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree with you, because having a master's degree in marketing, I was able to help them design the logo. So you feel like you have more invested
Mm-hmm.
than just playing the drums, or you feel like you're well-rounded. You can talk to the promoter.
Yeah.
You converse with them. You can help on the business side. So I really think it rounds you out really well.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage. And so your master's is in marketing. With graphic design, almost 50% of of that degree is a marketing degree. We had to do case studies on subliminal messaging. We had to do...
Those are interesting.
Those are really crazy. Some of the stuff...
Totally 70s, and I'm dating myself because I'm really not that old. I did have Farrah Fawcett on my wall, by the way.
Ah, there you go.
It's called a poster. Google it.
Yeah, we don't have Farrah on the wall no more. I still do.
See, there you go. I was thinking about
that
it.
kind of room. That's for a different show.
Yeah, but it's the marketing end of it and stuff like that really, really, really helps. And then bands that I want to get invested with, even if I'm just hired for them. I have a really bad problem with like overstepping my boundaries, where it's like I want everybody I work for to succeed, because if they're successful, I'm successful. Mm-hmm. And so I'll get hired to play for a group, and I'll see an email they're writing to a promoter to book a show, or a flyer they're putting out to promote an upcoming show or something like that, and I'll be like, hold on, try this instead, and give them something that stems from my education, and hopefully they just like it better, and hopefully it gives them a little extra edge in the game.
Was that always well received, or did you always get the cold shoulder? Or what was the reaction?
It's like? 50-50. Like there are some people that will appreciate the help, and then there's other people where it's no, we're gonna do it our way. You shut up and do your job. Yeah. And
that's where you learn your boundaries. You just go, oh, okay.
Right. The problem is you usually don't learn your boundaries till it's too late.
I've been there before.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
So I try to be a little more cautious about it. Like even with the Rhythm Coffin, I've been with them, like I said, 2 years, and the first year of playing with them, I took a very backseat role of like, you guys have been doing this band for a long time. I'm the new guy, and I'm just gonna stay the new guy. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna play the drums. I'm gonna show up on time. I'm gonna show up prepared, do my job, and that's it. And then after I was in for a year, then I started dipping my toes in the pond a little bit more. And they have been very welcoming of that. They seem like they've been pretty appreciative of the extra that I've been able to go outside of playing the drums kind of thing, on all the back end, the behind closed doors and business dealings and stuff like that. Anything that I can help, they seem very appreciative of it, which is nice. But like I said, not everybody is. Right. Some people are like, no, play the drums, monkey. Right.
Very cool, Nick. Very coul, man. Real quick, before we change gears a little bit, tell us a little bit about some of the other bands that you're in, and then how you kind of got into that.
Sure. Well, I mean, in terms, like, what other bands I'm in fluctuates on a daily basis almost.
And you were just recently at the Viper Room, right?
Yeah. I did, well, it was the Rhythm Coffin playing the Viper Room for their Halloween party, and prior to that, I played there with a group from England called V2A. I've been playing with them for a year.
Very nice.
We toured Germany in September, and then we came here to the States, and we did some stuff here in the States, including the Viper Room, and they're cool. Very different style of music. It's very industrial, electronic music kind of stuff, and they have a theme too. It's all very post-apocalyptic Mad Max style, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and between V2A and the Rhythm Coffin, that's taken up the bulk of my time the last 2 months.
Gotcha.
But at any given time, I'm playing in like 5 to 10 bands kind of thing. And a lot of it, some of it's long-term, and some of it is just random phone calls where it's, hey, we need a substitute drummer for a show, or hey, we got something coming up that we'd like you to do. And, some of it, like I said, becomes long-term, and some of it doesn't. Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you if you're a substitute drummer? I was always wondering about this. How long does it take you to get to know the songs?
It depends on the complexity of the song. So it's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different for every drummer, because some people might be able to learn something quicker than me or slower than me, or maybe something that's complicated for me is easy for somebody else, or vice versa. I'll tell you my secret. I don't memorize any of it. I write it all down. I sit at my kitchen table with my laptop and a set of headphones and paper and a pen, and I will stop and I'll click pause and play and rewind and pause and play and rewind and pause and play, and it'll take me half an hour to get through a 4-minute song.
That's effective though.
But yeah, I write it all down, and that helps me really learn the parts because
you see it, you write it, you hear it.
Yeah, and I'm
It engages your
concentrating on
mind.
it.
That you see it, it imprints.
Exactly.
I sound like I know what I'm talking about, don't I?
No, that's exactly it. When you're forced to actually translate what you're hearing, it does help you learn it better. And then what I'll do is spend every free moment I have leading up to my first rehearsal or my first gig with whoever that group is, in this room right here, behind the drums, playing to the music. If their songs are available on YouTube, YouTube has a great feature where you can slow down or speed up videos now.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's been around for a little while, but only on a desktop. Now you can do it on a mobile also. And I slow the song down, and I play to the songs slowly, because that really forces your mechanics and your muscle memory to kick in and stuff like that. And if you can play everything perfectly slow, then when you speed it up, it stays that way. And it's way easier.
Your body is fascinating because I exercise a lot, and they talk about muscle memory.
Yeah.
And it remembers. So
Right.
you just get in that mode. Again, that's a different show. but the body is fascinating.
Yeah.
So I love to hear how you break it down, so it makes it so you learn one component at a time, and then put those all together. Then you have a whole.
Yeah. So I'll go through with the chart that I made, and I'll play to it slowly if available. If their songs aren't on YouTube, I can't do it slowly, and I got to do it at the regular tempo of the song. But I sit here and I read the chart as I play it, and I just do the songs over and over and over again, and I'll play for a few hours every day, leading up to my first encounter with them, whether it's a rehearsal or just a straight up. Some bands don't even rehearse; they're just like learn it and show up. V2A. It's a perfect example. We've never rehearsed, ever. I got hired for them a little over a year ago, and the first time I ever actually played with them was at soundcheck at the first gig. Wow. And even we did this German tour in September. There was no rehearsal. It was like we all flew to Germany, and
get off the plane and get on the stage.
That was exactly it. It was you got off the plane, got on stage, played every night, and then I flew back here. They flew here about a week later, and we did it all over again. There was never a rehearsal, ever.
That's so insane, man.
It's very trusting of them. Yeah. They trusted me to not screw up the songs.
Yeah.
But again, I wrote it all down, I charted it, and I actually use my charts on stage. And usually the first 2 shows I do with any band, I will be reading the chart on stage, and I have it kind of hidden so the audience doesn't see it. It's put down a little bit lower, but I will be glancing at it all night kind of thing, making sure, and then in between songs flip the page kind of deal. And then after maybe 2 shows with a band, then I've kind of committed it to memory enough where I don't really need the chart anymore.
And that can be fun, because then if they ever, like working with Blakenstein, a lot of times when we do the live show, there's extended times where the drummer just goes off onto a solo, and if you know the song well enough, you have that ability to just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened where they do a long version, or?
Sometimes. A lot of groups that I work with tend to be very rigid, and they stick to exactly as it's recorded, beginning, middle, and end. And I also play to a metronome live. So that means you don't really have the ability to speed up or slow down. You have to keep on beat with it, and that's what they're expecting. And then a lot of groups too also use backing tracks now. So out front in the audience, it sounds like we have a 90-piece orchestra, but really there's only like 4 people on stage. And those tracks can't be...
the 96 people are below on the bottom of the stage.
Right. They're all behind a curtain like Oz.
Right.
And that curtain
Pay
is...
no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right. And a lot of that time, that curtain is just my iPod sitting next to me, and I hit play on it. And it's all of the band's backing tracks and stuff like that, all the extra instrumentation that we're not doing live but is on the record. And those can't really be manipulated on the fly. It's like once it's there, it's there. And so you can't really extend a jam in the middle of a song if it's on a pre-recorded track. So with those groups, that never happens. There is occasions where I'll be playing with a group that doesn't use a track and has a little more freedom in it. But in my world anyway, it's not frequent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've only done that with one artist in the last couple of years, and it was recent. We did like 3 or 4 shows over the summer, and it was the only time in a long time that I played without a metronome live, and it was a lot like flying without a net, but it was fun because it forced you to use your ears. And there were times where we would just like take a 3-minute song and all of a sudden it became 7 minutes because the guy was just really vibing on whatever this part was, and he was just like, keep going, you know, just keep going. Let's do it. Let's break it down. Let's get a little fast.
Fun.
Yeah, it was cool. It's super cool. I just don't get to do that very often.
Gotcha.
You know?
That's crazy, man. Like you heard it here first, folks. We're bringing you all the secrets and the details.
I told you we're all crazy.
I love it. Well, Nick, cool, man. Tell us real quick, just a little bit about, you've been on tour a lot.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the places you've been to and any memories that stick out.
Let's see. When it comes to North America, I've done Canada a lot, and I've done almost every state. I haven't done all 50 states, but I've done more than half.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably have to go look through old tour itineraries to find out what states I have actually gone to and which ones I've missed out on. And then for other countries, I was in Germany earlier this year. Prior to that, I did a tour with a group from California, from here, that I've been playing with for a while, that we did Spain, Portugal, France, Russia. Those were cool. I really, really, really do like being on tour.
Mm-hmm.
I like sleeping on a tour bus. I get the best sleep of the night, kind of thing. Like,
nice.
I don't know what it is, but I can go lay down on a bunk in a bus that's moving at any time of the day or night, and I can just fall right to sleep.
Hey, Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
When I was a little zombie, went back in the 70s, and then again, I'm not very old, but my dad would, when I was young, we drove around in a dune buggy. An actual dune buggy. He'd be going fast, and I'd be fast asleep.
I don't know if I could fall asleep in a dune buggy. I think that would probably be a little too bumpy of a ride for me.
But it's just like that. I can imagine when
Yeah.
you're falling asleep on a bus, same thing. I could do it. 'Cause
Oh,
just
yeah.
The rhythmic move, and you're out.
Yeah, that's got to be it. Something to that. So I've always enjoyed being on tour, and it's not for everybody. I know a lot of guys that they go out on their very first tour when they're young, and then they never go back. They're like, oh no, it was a miserable experience. They're just not cut out for that fly by the seat of your pants lifestyle. And you really do have to just kind of go with the flow, because anything and everything will go wrong.
Right.
And you just have to expect that.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. Expect the unexpected, because it's going to happen. And if you can't just let go and be cool with that, you're going to have a really tough time on tour.
Really cool too, man. Hey, speaking of that, to be on tour, like, it's not a normal lifestyle, right? Like,
Not at all.
It's very different. Man, you're a very positive dude, man. You put out some great vibes. Like, how are you eating? How are you taking care of yourself? You know, what is your regimen? What is your routine to stay in shape? And
I try to eat as healthy as I can. It's not always the case, especially when you're on tour. A lot of the time,
You're sort of limited.
Yeah, you get what you get. Depending on the budgets of the tour and stuff like that too. On little indie tours, there really isn't a budget for anything, and you got to get creative if you want to try and be healthy. On bigger tours that are a little bit more luxurious, you got a little bit more at your disposal because you can afford it. But when I'm at home and I'm not on the road, I try to be very health conscious in terms of my diet. Basically, it all boils down to a couple years ago, I just, regular annual checkup at the doctor's visit, and I got my charts back, and it was like, oh, this is a little high, this is a little low, this is a little high, this is a little low. And I just went, okay, well, I'm going to do something about that. It's like, all right, well, if...
Take charge of your
Yeah,
life.
I was like, let me try to balance this stuff out and put everything back in the green. And so that's what I did, is I started exercising on a regular basis, a few days a week. I started with 7 days a week, and then I was like, that's ridiculous. So I cut down to 5.
Yeah.
That's being a gym rat, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't go to the gym. If I can't do it at home, I don't do it. Like, I got a yoga mat and a pull-up bar, and if I can't accomplish it with one of those two items, I don't do it. But
no, that's good because when you're down the road, you kind of got to. That's all you got to work with.
You got to be creative.
Yeah.
So, I try to exercise about 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and change up the exercises each day, kind of thing. And I do that right when I wake up before breakfast, and then I'll eat 3, sometimes 4 meals a day, and I try to make them as healthy as possible. So I cut out sugar. I cut out anything with a high fat content. I cut out anything with high cholesterol content. So it's really bland, awful foods, lots of like dirt and gravel kind of stuff, which sucks because I love flavor and I love eating, and I genuinely like the taste of food. and now so much of it doesn't taste good because I'm eating healthier.
Mm-hmm. But then when you reward yourself, you can, every once in a while you can splurge.
Right, exactly. So, I try to, like, pizza's a big vice for me. Like, I could eat pizza all day, every day.
Me too.
And it's just so terrible for you. So I only allow myself to have pizza once a month, and that was the thing, is like I would splurge and I'd get like a good pizza with lots of toppings, and I'd eat like the whole damn thing by myself. But now I'm like, all right, that's probably not good either. So now I've made a deal with myself where, like, on my 1 pizza day a month, I will only eat a couple slices of pizza instead of the whole thing, and I will force myself to pair it with vegetables. I will have a bunch of raw veggies and a salad with it, and I will eat just as much in vegetables as I will the pizza to try and balance it. I don't know if it makes a difference, but it makes me feel better about myself.
That's a good thing to do. Portion it out.
Yeah, but on a regular basis, I eat a lot of plant-based stuff. I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but I'm V-curious, we'll say.
Oh, yeah.
I'm V-curious.
Yeah.
I lean towards it. When I go grocery shopping, the only animal product stuff that I buy would be, I'll do chicken and fish. Like, I'll get a couple of salmon cuts and maybe some chicken breasts or something like that. But that's the only animal anything I'll buy. Everything else is plant-based, fruits and vegetable, stuff like that. And so the majority of my diet is more on the healthy side of it. And that does come in handy when you are on tours and stuff like that, because you're going to have to get creative. Mm-hmm. Tour buses frequently stop at truck stops, and usually the only thing at a truck stop is like a Burger King.
Right.
And you're like, oh my God, what am I going to have? Well, there's a salad on every menu. Mm-hmm. And if you ask for it without cheese on it, and then you don't put a super crazy dressing on it like ranch or a blue cheese or something like that, well, all right, it's not much, but it's at least something. Mm. And then because I know a side salad isn't going to fill me up, I'll get 2 of them, mm-hmm. and then everybody on the bus makes fun of you because they're all eating burgers and fries and drinking sodas and stuff like that.
And paying for it later.
They admire you.
Yeah.
They may harass you, but they admire you.
They could. I don't know. But
or throw you off the bus, which is not what you would want.
Right. That's always a possibility, too. Oh, you're not one of us? You're not going to have a steak tonight? Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not.
What kind of bus?
So I haven't had a soda in over 2 years, and like that was the one thing where I was never a big drinker of it. I never had it in my house or anything, but I don't miss it. I just stopped one day. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to order a Coke with dinner. And I didn't, and I haven't since, and I'm like, I don't even miss it.
Right.
Yeah. And as a result of exercising regularly and changing my diet and eating much healthier and stuff like that, now I go and I get all of my blood work done and stuff like that twice a year instead of once a year. Mm-hmm. And the last time I got it done, everything was back in balance. My cholesterol was in check. My sugar was in check. My vitamin D was in check. Everything was perfect. I was the healthiest I've ever been in my entire life.
It's a good feeling.
It was great. And I don't remember exactly because it was a few months back, but I probably just went out and celebrated by getting a giant pizza.
I love that though, Nick, because I love how you said you made that deal with yourself. Because it comes down to you being disciplined, and I love that you're kind of breaking the rock and roll norm, man, and and taking good care of yourself, man. That's always great to hear.
Well, my intention is to do this for as long as I can.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is you can't do it. If your body
Can't live
starts
hard and
shutting
fast.
down, if your body starts shutting down on you, then you're not going to be able to perform.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to keep doing this and living the lifestyle of, hotels, planes, buses, and stage antics well into your 50s and 60s and 70s unless you make a change.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee the guys in the Rolling Stones, because they're all like 300 years old, they probably all, except for Keith Richards, changed their diets and their health habits later in life to maintain the lifestyle, to be able to still go out and rock a sold-out arena somewhere.
Yeah.
Keith Richards and Ozzy are like the only two anomalies in the world where the only thing keeping them standing is the amount of chemicals they put in their system when they were younger.
Right.
I think I'm pretty
I
sure they're
remember-
pre-embalmed.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the group Blondie.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned that Clem Burke, someone asked him in a recent interview, what keeps you going on tour? And he says, the way you eat, the way you exercise, and what you do when you're resting. And so it parallel, it exactly what you said. Exercising and taking care of yourself. He says, the body is like a machine. And he was just saying, you put yourself through literal hell for the 2-hour set, and you have to have enough stamina to do that over and over and over. And the only way you can is treat yourself right.
Yeah, if you got to go hard for an hour on stage every night under hot stage lights, you are so wiped out afterwards, and you're so exhausted after that you got to take care of yourself for the 23 hours you're not on stage, because it's going to catch up with you, and it's going to catch up hard. And drumming is such a physical instrument. It's more physical than any other instrument. If you're playing guitar or playing piano, you got to have fantastic dexterity that you've built up over the years, but that's just your fingers. You're not using your full arms. You're not headbanging. You're not using your feet. You're not, so drumming is just such a physical instrument, and the amount of impact that taking a drumstick and striking a drum, the impact that shoots through that drumstick is the same as punching a brick wall.
It's a repetitive motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. And as a result, things like carpal tunnel and arthritis are very common with drummers. So, you got to practice good technique. You got to take care of yourself.
Am I correct also, and correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't Phil Collins experienced something like that? Yeah, I mean, he's on his final tour, but is it that, do you know, can he no longer drum? Or
It's my understanding, and I could be wrong about this too, but it's my understanding that physically he couldn't play anymore because it was too painful. I don't know if it was arthritis, something related to that, or if it was maybe back issues or something like that. I remember seeing pictures of him playing back in the day, and it could have just been photo, but his posture didn't look that great while he was playing. And I've seen some guys who kind of hunch over when they play, and then they get up and they walk away from their drum set and they look like the hunchback. You know what I mean? Like they never practice proper posture while playing, and they're paying for it now, So technique and stuff like that is all crucial to the longevity of playing your instrument and stuff like that, and being able to still do it for years and years and years and years and years all boils down to proper technique. And then the healthy living will ensure that, you can still play, but you can also still go out on the road night after night after night. If I wanted to just play in dive bars on the weekends for the rest of my life, which actually doesn't sound terrible, but if that was what I wanted to do, I might not have to be as health conscious as I am, because I'm not playing 6 nights a week. I'm playing 1 or 2 nights a week. And it's a much more relaxed environment where you're pub somewhere and you're not under hot stage lights and having to give it your all and stuff like that. You can be a little more relaxed about it. But that's not my intention. My intention is to be able to still climb up onto the top bunk of the tour bus when I'm 70. And I'm going to have to work on it now. in order to keep it there later.
And some of us are closer to 70 than others.
And we hope to
No
see
one in
you
this
there.
room, however. There's people that I know.
Oh, I know some people too. I know a guy that I found out he was in his 60s, and I had no idea. I thought the dude was like 55. And I found out he was way older than I thought, and I was shocked. And it's because he works out and he eats healthy, and he's very strict about it.
We'll never know.
And as a result, he's still doing world tours every year, and he's just fine because he just took care of himself, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's going to be Nick Mason.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
Very cool, Nick. Well, just a couple more things before
Sure.
we let you out of here, man.
No problem.
Rock and roll and the haunt industry have always come together. Rock and roll, horror, comedy, they all kind of come to this intersection. How did you kind of get into horror, into the haunt things? Like, when did you first started liking all the werewolves and zombies?
Oh
and
man, I
vampires?
probably my whole life.
Yeah.
I grew
He's
up with
talking
it.
my language right now.
Yes. Shifting gears to the haunt world. I've always liked it. I started watching horror movies and stuff when I was pretty young.
Mhm.
Now, when I was really young, there was stuff that would scare me. Like, when I was super young, if you just said, like, Chucky or Freddy, I would have nightmares for a week.
Yeah.
But I hadn't actually seen the movies. I was just really young and saw imagery of it in, like, a video store or something like that, or at a costume shop. And it was scary enough that it would frighten me. But then when I got a little bit older, it was a slow burn. Like, I would sit and watch one horror movie, and I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then I'd go for 2 and 3, and then it just spiraled. So by the time I was late middle school, I was the kid coming home from trick-or-treating and sorting out and counting my candy while I'm watching Halloween, or I'm watching Friday the 13th or something like that,
Yeah.
So I got into it pretty young, and it just stuck, and I just loved it, and I loved Halloween in general, and I loved horror. And when I got even a little bit older, I got to work at some haunts.
Mhm.
And
Did you ever scare act?
oh yeah,
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
So
man. Awesome.
when
Talking my language again.
yeah. So get this, when I was a Boy Scout, I was in Boy Scouts when I was younger, and one of the things we used to do in my scout troop every year, there was a campground that we would go to a couple times a year and go camping.
Mhm.
And during Halloween, they did this thing called Terror in the Woods, and it was a haunt.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like a haunted maze through the campground.
Wow.
And my Boy Scout troop, every October, we would volunteer to be haunt actors, to be scare actors at the campground. And it was
Crazy.
so much
that's
fun.
awesome.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, it was so much fun. And we were like young. We were like 13, 14 years old, getting to put on a costume and go stand in the woods and wait for unsuspecting people to walk the trail, and you jump out. I mean, it was so
Yeah,
cool.
Nice.
So I got a taste for it then. And
Taking the word scream actor to a whole new
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, they started opening some chain stores in town that were Halloween stores, Halloween shops that would just be seasonal that would open up. And a friend of mine got the job as the manager for one of these stores and just hired all of her friends, kind of thing. So I got a job that way. So it was a seasonal job that, even though I was in college full-time and had a job at a music store at the time, I still took on that job every October of seasonal help, working retail in a Halloween store, because it was just so much fun. And some of the people I met at that job,
It's
we're
fun.
still friends to this day, and we still talk all the time and reminisce about the stupid stories we got into a lot of trouble with the town. We'd have the cops show
So
up
did we, by the way.
every year because we were pulling stunts. Buddy of mine got arrested one time because we went to the bank to go cash our paychecks, but we were in costumes. And they're like, you can't do that in here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Such a small detail.
Right. Apparently you can't sit in a bank parking lot dressed like Michael Myers, filling out your checkbook without getting a gun put to your head and you all the way in handcuffs. Who knew, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
It was fun to do once, wasn't it?
right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's good to do once, just once.
So like, were your favorite horror movies like the slashers, or were like what was your favorite type?
I think it started as the slashers when I was a kid, but then, through gradual discovery of all things horror, it branched out. I think my favorites are the Universal monsters.
Of course, yeah.
The classics.
Mine
Yeah,
too.
you got Bela Lugosi on your coat right now.
I have to say, like many friends, at the last Midsummer Scream, I got to meet Bela Lugosi Jr.
I've met him a couple
And
times. He's
I was
super
just like, my
nice.
mouth is like, do you talk? And I'm like, because when he looks at you, he looks just like his father.
Yeah, you definitely see the resemblance. He grabbed me, I think it was at Midsummer Scream a couple years ago, and I was wearing a T-shirt that had like all these different faces of Bela Lugosi and all the different characters he played. And I was just standing kind of near the booth where he was doing a signing. I wasn't talking to him. I think I was in a conversation with somebody else. And all of a sudden I feel a tug on my shirt, and I turn, and it's Bela Lugosi Jr. pulling my shirt out, looking at the shirt, and then he grabs his assistant and he goes, "Where did he get this?" He had never seen that particular shirt before.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like those are my favorites. Like the original Dracula.
I love it.
I own it on DVD, and I just got it on Blu-ray. And the pin that you're wearing right now, I have a giant 28-inch poster of that framed in my bedroom.
Love it.
So the Universal monsters are my favorite.
Mine too.
And I'm wearing a Frankenstein shirt actually underneath the Frankenstein
There
hoodie
we
that I
go.
have on right now.
Nice.
We knew we liked you.
Yeah.
For a reason we couldn't figure it out, but now we know.
Right. So I've always been into the haunt thing. I used to love going to them. And then gradually I just got lucky when it came to bands I was playing, and all of a sudden started getting in the mix with that, where it started when I joined Street Drum Corps. I've been in that group for, I think, 7-ish years at this point. And for many years, they had the residency every October at Knott's Berry Farm doing the Blood Drum Show.
That was that residency was a long time.
I know. I think we had that almost 10 years or something like that. But we didn't do it just there. We did it all over the place. And we still do it all over the country. And we do it at different haunts every year. And we hire local guys out in whatever state. And we'd fly out there, train some local guys to do the show. And then we'd come back here and we'd do our one in L.A. And when I joined Street Drum Corps, I did the show in Northern California that year, where we went up to the theme park up in San Jose, and we did the Blood Drum show up there and stuff like that. And
Great America.
Great America, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And getting to go to Great America's haunt 5 nights a week for 6 weeks, and get your makeup done in the same room with all the other scare actors, and
It's a
get
rush.
to go play in the mazes and get to go play in that environment every night for a month is so cool.
You feel like a little kid every night.
Oh my God, if I could
You're
do it
just-
all year round, I would.
Yeah.
And so with Street Drum Corps, I got to do blood drum stuff every year for many years, going to different haunts and playing at different haunts. I did one in Arizona the year after that. I did a couple in LA after that. We did the Haunted Hayride. We did Knotfest with Slipknot and Korn and Iron Maiden and stuff. And we got to do it there, which was cool. And then joining the Rhythm Coffin 2 years ago, they're so deeply involved in that world. That band's been around for over 10 years too. And they're super dialed in, and just naturally, me being a horror fan and a musician, they kind of assumed that I knew about all the different things that go on in this town and the people behind the scenes. And I didn't know half of the stuff that was going on. LA is like Halloween central all year round.
It's year round.
Yeah. There's a different horror event every single month of the year. And they would be like, "What do you mean you don't know about Spook Show?"
Right.
I'm like, how was I supposed to know this Halloween convention's been going on every March for 2 years or 5 years, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So they helped introduce me to a lot of that stuff too, which is fantastic. And we got involved with stuff like Scare LA and the Ghost Train and just all these different events and stuff like that. So now I'm way more deep in the trenches. And it was just me kind of doing my best job to marry two things that I loved.
Yeah.
Even the name Living Dead Drummer that I've been using the last few years. came from an event that was like mixing horror and music. And it was just kind of a comment. It was a side mark that someone made, and the light bulb went off over my head. You know?
That's how it happens.
Yeah, I said, oh my God, I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it. And this is my way of blending my love of horror and my passion for playing music, and a way to finally figure out how to put them together. And I just took it and ran with it. And it, you know?
Yeah. Real quick, tell us about that character. You come with the face paint. You got, you're with
right.
them,
Well, I
so
mean,
like, tell us a little bit.
I mean, it started that way. The Living Dead drummer thing. It's just me, 24 hours a day. It's me. I use that name no matter what. It's written on my drumsticks. It's written on the front of my bass drum head. That's my website, livingdeaddrum.com. But if you look at the website, like, the pictures are just me, no makeup kind of thing. So I just use that all the time, because I don't know if you're aware, but there is another very famous Nick Mason who's also a drummer. And growing up with that has been kind of a pain.
Sure. Yeah. So
When
again,
you-
setting
It's like
yourself
having the
apart.
elephant on your back.
Right.
Yeah,
when
really different.
when you're trying to email somebody or contact a certain thing and do some business, and they see your name, they automatically jump to conclusions thinking you're the other guy because he got there first.
Right.
You know, Pink Floyd's been around since, the 60s, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so everyone just automatically assumes that I was that guy. And I'm like, no, I mean, if you look at the pictures, there is a 30-year difference between he and I.
Right.
And I mean, it just happened recently. I got a bunch of people. He's doing some sort of solo tour right now, and he's playing at one of the big theaters back home in Buffalo. And I had friends back home writing me going, dude, I can't wait for this. And I'm like, dude, look at the picture. That's not me. And it also clearly says right on the bottom, the music of Pink Floyd.
Yep.
Am I in Pink Floyd, man? And they're like,
No.
oh, that's the other guy. I'm like, yeah.
That's the other Nick.
That's the other Nick Mason. So it's been difficult to kind of carve my own identity in the music world. When you share the name as someone else who's more famous than you, it's really hard to make your own footprint. And the Living Dead drummer thing, that was the meal ticket. I tried using like my full name, going by Nicholas instead of Nick. That only worked about half the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the Living Dead drummer thing was perfect because, like I said, I got to blend my love of horror. And where that started was there's the NAMM show, which is a huge music convention every January in Anaheim. I've been going for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years ago was the 20th anniversary of the Coffin Case Company. They make coffin-shaped guitar cases and music cases, and as you can see, I have a couple of them on the shelf there. I got 3 of them right there,
Nice.
one of them down here. They don't do a lot for drummers, but what they do make available, I own, and I've been a supporter of that company for many, many, many years. About 12, 13 years ago, one of the bands I was touring with started endorsing the Coffin Case Company, and then when that band kind of fell apart, I contacted them and was like, hey, even though the band is kind of done, I still use and love your stuff. Can I continue this relationship solo without the band? And they were like, yeah, cool. So I've been able to be really great friends with Johnny, the guy who owns the company. And he kind of randomly called me up and said, hey, it's our 20th anniversary coming up, and we're going to do something big at the NAMM show this year, and I'd love to have you involved. And I'm like, great, I'm in. Let's do it. I'm a drummer, man. What do you want me to do? I'm like, I can't go out on stage with a guitar and sing a couple songs. Like, I'm a drummer. What? So, and he's like, I don't know. Let's figure it out. So, so we pieced together this
I love
idea.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No idea. So every year, the Coffin Case Company would do a fashion show. And they get all these alternative models and do a runway show of like rocker chicks. And just blast metal music and stuff like that. So came up with the idea of like, I called a buddy and I said, let's you and me set up drum sets on each side of the runway. And we'll play live drums on stage while the girls do the runway fashion show between us.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, and we had these makeup artists come in, and they wanted us to look like we were corpses that just crawled out of a grave and onto stage. And so, yeah, and so I was like, this was such a cool idea. I was like, let's do it. And that's where the name Living Dead Drummer came from. So it was just like a side comment someone made backstage. And I just thought, when I heard that, the light bulb went off, and I went, oh my God, how did I never think of that before? Yeah. So instantly, like the next day, I like ran out and like reserved every domain possible.
That's what you do as a marketing person.
Yeah,
get that domain.
Got the domain. I changed everything over. My email address, all of my social media accounts. I downloaded social media apps that I don't even use just to register the name, and then deleted the app afterwards, just so everywhere you searched for Living Dead Drummer, the one and only thing you would get was me.
I love it.
And I've been using it for the last couple of years.
That's marketing 101.
And it's been fantastic, because now it's made my own identity. Mm-hmm. Now people introduce me on stage as the Living Dead Drummer, and I never asked them to do that. Mm-hmm. I'll do guest appearances for stuff at in Hollywood. They do like these jam nights all the time, where they bring out all these side musicians that play for more famous artists and stuff. And anytime I go out and do them, I'm doing one tomorrow night actually. Anytime I go out and do one, when I come out on stage, they say, here's Nick, the Living Dead Drummer, kind of thing. And I never asked them to do that. They just started doing it.
You become that character.
Yeah, and it's not, like I said, I don't have to wear makeup for it. I wear the makeup when I play with the Rhythm Coffin, or I wear makeup when it's a gig that would require me to wear makeup. Mm-hmm. If I'm playing with a blues band, obviously I'm not going to go out there with a bunch of guy liner on and, or white face paint. But it's still going to say Living Dead Drummer on the front of the kick drum head. It's still going to say it on my drumsticks. And they're going to still say on stage, behind the drums, we got the Living Dead Drummer kind of thing. Yeah. And that's really been cool that I've been able to start building this identity. And it's still pretty new. I've still only been using it for a couple of years. And it's been snowballing in a direction that I'm really thankful for. And like I said, it's also helped put my footprint in the haunt and horror world a little bit more too, which is just basically a passion. It has nothing to do with the career. I'm not, other than getting to play and perform at those events, but even just going to them, mm-hmm. It's surreal. Right? It's really cool when you're just walking and you're meeting other people at the event, or vendors or something like that at some of these conventions, and they know who you are because you've got your identity in both worlds.
It's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I love it. Nick, real cool, man. That's awesome, man. Real quick, while we're on the subject, if somebody wanted to book you for a project, if they wanted to reach out to you, what is the best way to do so?
Well, like I said, I'm available on all social media platforms. So you go on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any one of them. Mm-hmm. Those are the three that I use most often. But any one of those platforms, if you just look up Living Dead Drummer, you're going to find me. Got it. I respond to messages pretty quickly, or at least I try to.
He does. He keeps his word.
Yeah, he does. I mean, every once in a while something slips through the crack and I don't see it, but that's just common for anything. Other than that, my website, livingdeaddrummer.com. There, you can contact me through there. There's a button right in the top right corner that it's a little button with an envelope on it. And you just click that and it goes to my email address, So I can be reached via email, through my website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. I never use Snapchat. I don't know why I throw that one out there. But pretty much every social media platform in existence, if you look up Living Dead Drummer, you'll find me. A Google search, the only thing that's going to come back in a Google search for Living Dead Drummer is me.
Is the man himself.
Which is awesome, because if you search Nick Mason, it would take you 50 pages to find me, and it'd be 49 pages of Pink Floyd. Yeah. So,
Pink Floyd, there it is.
So yeah, if anybody ever wants to get in touch with me for a booking or anything like that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah. That's the most direct route and the easiest way. And I'm fairly available. Even though I might be playing in 10 bands at a time and touring multiple countries, I will always figure out how to make it work. And that's been pretty cool with the different bands too. Is like they all know my schedule is first come, first serve. So if they call and say, hey man, we got a gig on the 12th, and I look at my calendar and say, I'm sorry, I'm booked on the 12th, they're like, okay, we'll do it the 13th instead. You know, I've been fortunate that I haven't ruffled too many feathers by being
That's really good.
busy.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to be pretty patient with me and knows that I like to work and I like to work a lot. And the busier my schedule is, the happier I am. So if people try to make my schedule busy, I'm in a good place and I'm going to make it worth their time.
There you have it, folks. Make sure you check him out on all social media platforms at The Living Dead Drummer and also at his website, thelivingdeaddrummer.com.
Just Living Dead Drummer.
Just Living Dead Drummer. just make sure you go to Living Dead Drummer.
LivingDeadDrummer.com.
Do not go to Nick Mason because you will never find it. So.
Right. It'll
I
be
have
difficult.
final one burning question, because I love the makeup on stage.
Sure.
I wear a prosthetic myself, and sometimes under those hot lights, the prosthetic starts making face mutations that it's not supposed
starts to melt on you.
How long does it take you to put the makeup on, and how do you have it so it doesn't run in your eyes?
It's a lengthy process. We got a couple more minutes. I can go into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, it's funny. I've had a bunch of people ask me about how I do my makeup. And I've been thinking about doing like a tutorial on YouTube or something like that.
You have to now, man.
I'm sure there's 1,000 of them out there that are better than what I would do, but I've had so many people asking me lately about how do you do your makeup? How do you know, and especially like you said, right, with it being under hot stage lights and not getting messy. So I use makeup that's stupid expensive. Like, I go and buy professional stuff from an actual makeup store. I don't just get stuff from, like, a convenience store. And so the ingredients helps. But the process, it takes me to do full face paint. Like, if I'm playing with the rhythm coffin where I got full face paint on, that could take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending.
That's feasible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If I got to move real quick and I'm, like, under a time crunch, I've been able to do it in under 30 minutes. But if I'm taking my time with it, it will take an hour. I use a cotton ball and an astringent, like rubbing alcohol or something like that, on my face first. Make sure your face is really clean, and I go over it with a cotton ball and alcohol first, kind of help close up your pores and stuff so the makeup doesn't seep into your skin too much. Then I use, I forget the brand, but it's Clown White is the color, the white color. And I use a makeup sponge, and I don't smear it on, I blot it.
So much easier.
Yes. Blotting it, it takes a little bit longer than just smearing it all over, but blotting it ensures that you don't get any streaks, and it all goes on evenly. Really nice and even base. I try not to make any faces while I do it either, because I don't want any lines or cracks or anything like that. I used to notice that I would get a lot of cracks and lines in my forehead because I'd be moving my eyes around or my eyebrows up and down while I'm trying to, like, blot it on my chin or something.
So easy to do that because you've got to.
Yeah. So I try to keep as still as possible while I do it to make sure it goes on as smooth as possible. And then I use a powder over it to set it. And then I'll do my eyes and my lips with black, and I just use like a black grease paint and a brush, like a small paintbrush kind of thing for it to get really, really fine detail and get really nice straight lines. I buy all my stuff at Cinema Secrets in Burbank, and I use their house-made stuff. So I'll do the black with the brush. And then I again go over the black with a flat black eyeshadow. And I blot that over my eyes and my lips to again set it the way I did with the powder on the white. And then I have a sealing spray that I mist over my face afterwards to set the whole thing. It's a long process, it's a lot of steps, but it stays on and it lasts for hours, and it's very...
Hey, what's up, everybody? Unfortunately, the last few minutes of our interview got cut short, but basically, I just went on to ask Nick what thoughts he had to leave for us, and he explained to not have a plan B, because if we have a plan B, then we'll more than likely fall back on that. Nick never had a plan B. His only plan was to do drums full time, and that's what he does. So, hey, Nick, thanks again for being on the show, and Tsunami Healing. We will catch you next time on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in, Wave Healer Nation.